What if I told you that Darth Vader, the Dark Lord of the Sith, who spent decades hunting Jedi across the galaxy, ultimately believed his son, Luke, was greater than every single Jedi who came before him? Not Yoda, not Obi-Wan, not even Anakin Skywalker himself in his prime. This isn't just fan theory or wishful thinking. There's actual evidence, scattered throughout the movies, novels, and canon materials, that reveals Vader's stunning realization about his son's true nature. Let me take you through why the galaxy's most feared Sith Lord came to this remarkable conclusion, and what it tells us about what really makes a Jedi great. To understand Vader's admission, we need to establish what he knew about the Jedi Order. Remember, Anakin Skywalker wasn't just any Jedi. He trained under Obi-Wan Kenobi, fought alongside masters like Mace Windu and Kit Fisto, learned from Yoda himself, and eventually became a Jedi Knight with his own Padawan. He witnessed the Order at its height and saw firsthand what made the legendary Masters legendary. Then, as Vader, he spent 20 years hunting down the survivors of Order 66. He studied their techniques, their philosophies, their strengths, and their weaknesses. The novelizations make it clear that Vader maintained detailed records of every Jedi he encountered or eliminated. He wasn't just killing them, he was analyzing them, learning from them, understanding what made them powerful and what made them fail. So when Vader evaluates Luke, he's doing so with an encyclopedic knowledge of Jedi capabilities. His assessment isn't coming from a place of ignorance or paternal bias. If anything, his hatred of his past should have made him resistant to seeing greatness in anyone connected to the Jedi path. Here's where it gets fascinating. In Return of the Jedi, during their final confrontation, Vader tells Luke something crucial. He says the Emperor has foreseen that Luke will destroy him. But watch Vader's body language throughout that entire sequence. He's not trying to kill Luke with full intensity. He's testing him, yes, but there's something else happening. The canonical novel The Return of the Jedi, Beware the Power of the Dark Side, expands on Vader's internal thoughts during this confrontation. Vader recognizes that Luke has accomplished something no other Jedi in the Order's history had managed: true emotional balance. The old Jedi suppressed their emotions, bottling them up until they either leaked out as subtle darkness or exploded catastrophically. We saw this with Anakin himself, with the Council's cold treatment of attachments, with their inability to see Palpatine's manipulation right under their noses. But Luke feels everything deeply. He loves fiercely. He mourns openly. He gets angry and channels it without being consumed. When he force chokes the Gamorrean guards at Jabba's palace, he's using a dark side technique, yet he doesn't fall. When he nearly kills Vader in their final duel after Vader threatens Leia, he stops himself at the precipice. Not because he's suppressing his rage like the old Jedi would teach, but because he's experiencing it fully and then choosing differently. Now let's talk about raw power, because this is where many fans get confused. Was Luke actually more powerful in the Force than Yoda or Mace Windu? Probably not. At least not at that point in his training. He'd had maybe 4 years of scattered instruction compared to their lifetimes of disciplined practice. But here's what Vader understood, that we often miss. Power isn't just about Force strength. The canon novels Secrets of the Jedi and various reference materials make it clear that the Jedi Order had become obsessed with measuring Force potential through midi-chlorian counts and combat prowess. They'd forgotten what actually mattered. Luke demonstrated something far rarer than raw power. He showed the ability to hold seemingly opposite truths in balance. He could be a warrior when needed, yet his greatest victory came through refusing to fight. He honored the Jedi Code while acknowledging his attachments rather than pretending they didn't exist. He could touch the dark side without being corrupted by it, because he didn't fear his own darkness. He accepted it as part of himself. Vader spent his entire life torn between extremes. As Anakin, he tried to be the perfect Jedi while secretly harboring forbidden attachments and ambitions. As Vader, he embraced hatred and power. While never quite silencing the light within him, he was always at war with himself. Then along comes Luke, who somehow manages to be authentically himself while walking the Jedi path. That's what Vader recognized as true mastery. Let's examine the throne room scene with fresh eyes. When Luke throws down his lightsaber and declares himself a Jedi, like his father before him, he's doing something unprecedented. Every other Jedi who faced Palpatine either fought or fled. Yoda fought and failed. Mace Windu fought and died. The thousands of Jedi who came before all relied on their power, their skills, their connection to the Force as a tool or a weapon. Luke does the opposite. He makes himself completely vulnerable. He chooses certain death rather than compromise his principles. And this is what finally breaks through to Vader. In that moment, Vader sees what a true Jedi actually is. Not a warrior monk with supernatural powers, not a guardian who suppresses emotions in favor of sterile peace, but someone who embodies compassion so completely that they'll sacrifice themselves for love. The canonical reference book Star Wars: Complete Locations notes that Vader's life support systems registered a surge in his emotional state during this moment, one that nearly overwhelmed his cybernetics. His heart rate spiked. His breathing became erratic. For perhaps the first time since Mustafar, he was feeling everything without the filter of hatred and pain. So, when does Vader actually admit Luke's greatness? It's subtle, but it's there. His final words to Luke are, "Tell your sister you were right about me." Not "tell your sister I loved her," or "tell your sister I'm sorry." He says, "You were right." Vader is acknowledging that Luke succeeded where every Jedi before him failed. Luke was right about the possibility of redemption. Luke was right that love could overcome the dark side. Luke was right in his unshakable faith in the light, even when surrounded by darkness. In essence, Vader is admitting that Luke understood the Force better than Yoda, better than Obi-Wan, better than any of the Masters who taught that Vader was irredeemable. The novel, From a Certain Point of View, Return of the Jedi, includes a short story from Obi-Wan's perspective as a Force ghost during these events. Even Obi-Wan admits he was wrong about Vader being beyond saving. He acknowledges that Luke's compassion achieved what all of Obi-Wan's skills and wisdom could not. If Obi-Wan can admit this, then Vader's recognition of Luke's superiority becomes even more significant. Here's why this matters. Beyond just one dramatic moment, Luke's approach becomes the foundation for what the Jedi Order could be reborn as. The old order failed because they'd become rigid and disconnected from the very life they were supposed to serve. They'd turned the Force into a discipline rather than a relationship. They'd made rules more important than wisdom. Luke proves there's another way. He shows that you can have attachments without being controlled by them. You can feel anger without being consumed by it. You can acknowledge the dark side exists within you without giving it power over you. This integration of light and shadow, this acceptance of the full spectrum of human emotion while still choosing the light, that's what makes him greater than those who came before. Vader recognized this. Because he'd lived both extremes. He knew the sterile perfection the Jedi demanded was a lie, because he'd tried and failed to achieve it. He knew the dark side's promise of power through passion was equally hollow, because he'd achieved that power and found only suffering. Luke found a third path, and Vader saw it clearly. So here's the truth that Vader understood in his final moments. Luke Skywalker became the greatest Jedi, not despite his limited training, not despite his emotional attachments, not despite his brushes with the dark side, but because of them. He was great because he was fully human, while being fully Jedi. He proved that the Force doesn't demand perfection. It demands authenticity, compassion, and the courage to choose light, even when darkness would be easier. Vader's admission wasn't spoken in a grand declaration. It was demonstrated through action. He chose to save his son, knowing it would kill him. Because Luke had shown him what the Jedi path was truly meant to be. Not a set of rules to follow, but a way of loving the galaxy so completely that you'd give everything for it. That's why Vader believed Luke surpassed them all. And honestly, looking at the evidence, it's hard to argue he was wrong. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.